Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, July 7th. It's time to go on the record. Secretary of State Bill Galvin, the Commonwealth's point person on election security and the census, the challenges for 2020, and just how critical the numbers really are.
This failure is completely unacceptable to me.
A grim Governor Baker on stunning failures at the RMV. How deep is the damage from this latest transportation meltdown? And Boston City Councilor Michelle Wu leading the charge against MBTA fare increases. Are these the first big steps in a run for mayor? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning and welcome to On the Record for this July 7th. Summer is moving along already. I'm Ed Harding along with Center Fox political reporter Jenna Booth. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. Our guest is Massachusetts Secretary of State Bill Galvin. He is a Democrat. He has served the current role since 1995. Before that, Mr. Galvin served as a state representative from 75 to 91. He's a graduate of Boston College. He has a law degree from Suffolk University. As always, sir, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for your time.
Happy summer.
Happy summer.
Finally. Happy summer, yeah, finally, and it's not going to last too long. So the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled the Trump administration lost its bid to include that citizenship question on the U.S. Census, but only for now. However, I guess my question is, what do you think the chances are for it still making the 2020 census? You know, the questionnaires are supposed to be printing right now.
I hope not good, and I don't think so, because precisely what you just said, the logistics of printing the questionnaires in multiple languages for distribution across the whole country really almost is prohibitive when it comes to the timelines, because basically what the Supreme Court did is they remanded it back to the Federal District Court in New York. So the result is going to be more litigation. I think it's, and as you know, President Trump tweeted something about delaying the whole census, so I think that's not realistic.
Not going to happen.
No, that's in the Constitution, and he can't suspend the Constitution.
But could they force reprinting of the ballots, like in a
the questionnaires, perhaps, but again, I doubt it. You're going to talk about expenditures, congressional and oversight, a lot of factors. I mean, the real issue is this. The purpose of the census is not to put questions in, no matter what they are. Obviously, I think the citizenship question was designed to sabotage the census in states like ours. But irrespective of my opinion, the fact of the matter is the principal purpose of the census is to take an accurate count. That's what we should focus on, the count, to make sure the count is accurate. And any question at this point is secondary to that.
And to that, the count will lead to?
Well, the count is the only actual count we have for 10 years, so it's a congressional representation. But really for Massachusetts and for everybody, but for us especially, it's about federal aid. It's about money for public transportation. It's about money for public education. It's about money for public health, critical feature of our economy. These are all very important things. So that it's not just the political representation, as important as that is, it's the money.
And the money is very important. I want to go back to the political representation, because here in Massachusetts, are you confident that even with the citizenship question off the ballot, is a congressional seat hanging in the balance, do you
I don't think it's hanging in the balance, but it's always at risk. I mean, the reality is that every statistical estimate has our population at 6.9 million people. That's clearly enough people to justify the 9 seats in Congress we now have. But if the count is badly flawed and we come in at a substantially lower number than that, then it presents a problem.
And we just put 3 faces up there, and they're very powerful House leaders: Jim McGovern, Richie Neal, and Catherine Clark. Could only 2 of those, if the music stopped and we lost a seat, could that affect one of them?
I'm not going to speculate, because ultimately the legislature would make that decision. I would point out that west of Worcester, we now have 2 congressional seats. That's the less populous end of the state. So the census is a challenge, and always has been for Massachusetts. And I've run the last 2 census efforts in 2000 and 2010, because we have a number of factors in our state. One of them, obviously, is the foreign-born population. Of that 6.9 I mentioned, 1 million persons are foreign-born. Now, some of those folks are naturalized citizens, some of them are here with green cards, whatever, but that's a significant population. In fact, the increase in our population over the last 10 years has largely been because of the foreign-born population that's come here. The second factor, though, which people overlook, is the students. Students should be counted here if they spend most of the year here. We have a large number of universities throughout the whole state. They need all to be counted. That's a challenge, because logically kids from other states who come here to get educated, even if they're here for 9 months, say, oh, I should be counted in my home state. Well, that's not true. Just like military personnel are counted where they're assigned, not their home state. Same point. So those are the 2 big challenges we always confront in Massachusetts.
So the High Court also ruled on the gerrymandering powers of states, essentially giving them full power to draw congressional district lines. however they please. So how worried are you about this? Maybe perhaps not in Massachusetts, but perhaps in Massachusetts, but in states across the country.
Well, I think what it means is we're going to see more reliance on state courts to make these decisions. And I'm not sure this is the final word. I know we always think the United States Supreme Court is the final word, but when you have a 5-4 decision, as you just had in this case, the potential for another challenge down the road exists, sometime probably in the next decade. But I also think, as we saw in Pennsylvania, the state courts may well get into the play as well. I think there's also a lot more scrutiny on redistricting decisions than there were before. Now it's much more scientific. People have an opportunity to see what's happening, and they know how it's happening. So I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny. I don't think it's quite the past that it could be, and hopefully isn't.
And here in Massachusetts, you don't think it's going to be much of an issue?
I don't think so. Again, the shape of our state, the way the population is dispersed, a lot of factors. For instance, when you go up to north of Boston, Essex County, well, you've got the Atlantic Ocean and New Hampshire. Where is Essex County going to go?
Right.
So, I mean, there aren't a lot of options. Same with the Cape. Where are you going to go? So there are limitations.
When we started the show, we talked about election security, which is another important part of what you are doing.
Right.
There's been a lot of panic among Democrats and voters about the security of the election results this next year, obviously,
Right.
because we're coming into a presidential election year. How confident are you about the systems? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. How confident are you about the systems that are in place in most states? Do you feel good about that?
I won't speak to most states.
Speak to yours.
I'll speak to Massachusetts, and I'm fairly confident that we only vote on paper ballots, and our registration information is kept it's not online, it's not on the internet. Having said that, we're always concerned. We're spending a lot of money. We're going to protect it. It's not necessarily about foreign powers, as bad as that is. It could be others. It could be people for ransom. It could be people who just want to prove how smart they are. I mean, you have to be concerned, and we're always concerned about backup of the system. So I'm confident of that. Am I concerned about other states? I'm concerned that some other states are still using electronic equipment, which I think is a bad idea, and I'm concerned about that.
You mentioned other parts of this, and this is the second part of the question. So do you fear Russian or even Chinese hacking of actual voting machines? I assume the answer is...
In Massachusetts?
Yeah.
No.
Well, obviously, just fear it in general.
Well, it's a concern.
Sure.
I mean, you're talking about a lot of moving parts in an election, and on a given day, millions of people doing something they're not familiar with doing, an army of temporary workers, uncertainty, unpredictability, all these are factors that go into it. So anybody says, oh, there'll never be a problem is foolish. We're going to do the best we can to protect it. I believe a paper ballot system that you can always fall back on has worked well for us. I believe in that. I think other states should do that. As long we can count them electronically, and we do in a box we can control. On the other hand, in the sense that we know if it breaks down, we can count it by hand. But other states don't do all that, and am I concerned?
There are very few states that only have paper ballots.
Well, I think increasingly people have seen the benefit of it. I mean, there was a rage to go to electronic equipment, 15 years ago, but I think that's pretty much diminished at this point.
You ready for the OTR pop quiz?
Sure. You can tell my enthusiasm. Go right ahead.
Look at that smile on his face.
Sure. Okay, here we go. It's time for the OTR pop quiz, and we have chosen for the Secretary of State official Massachusetts state symbols. Multiple choice. We're going to start with food. What is the official muffin of Massachusetts? Is it the blueberry, is it the apple, or is it the corn?
I would say blueberry.
I would have said blueberry too. It's the corn.
Okay.
Blueberry is the state muffin of Minnesota. Apple's the state muffin of New York. And we actually have an official muffin in Massachusetts. So. Okay. Question 2. How about donuts? What is the official Commonwealth official donut? You can't say Dunkin'. Is it powdered? Is it Boston cream? Or is it plain?
Boston cream.
Bingo. Boston cream pie is also the state's official dessert.
I mean, this is a pastry quiz or what?
Well, it's July 4th.
Go ahead.
We're hanging around for more with Secretary of State Bill Galvin in just a minute.
I'm not a pastry chef.
Well, I know.
You know that.
I eat pastry, though.